Good morning. This is Chris Canini from GSA's Office of My Policy. This is the second of our Phase 2 demonstration training sessions for the Federal Real Property Profile Management System. Just some logistical items before we turn it over to our developers. Unless you're asking a question, if you could please mute your phone. We had a lot of issues with the background noise during our first training session from conversations going on. So again, unless you need to ask a question, please mute your phone as we kind of go through the various functions of the training session. And as we switch from our PowerPoint file to actually a live demo, we'll provide you an opportunity to ask questions, or feel free to jump in. Also, logistical note, if for some reason you have to drop off the call to attend to other business, please do not put your call on hold. The way the software works, if one person goes on hold, everybody else gets to listen to music. So if you have to drop off, just disconnect your line, hang up. You can always rejoin the call at a later time. This is our second training on the FRPP management system. We did phase 1 training based off of the known requirements at that time, which was the 2014 reporting requirements. Phase 2 now incorporates all the changes that were incorporated for FY15. And this is the set of requirements that you'll begin submitting your data on after October 1st. We've also made some other functional enhancements that were not able to be incorporated into the phase 1 development. And our technical staff will go over those as well. We have recorded each of the different training sessions that we have conducted. We're in the process of finalizing that, and we'll send you YouTube links so that if you need to refer back to any of the data dictionary training or the FRPP management system phase 1 training, you can go back and watch and listen to those interactive YouTube videos. Any logistical questions before I turn it over to our developers to walk you through? Okay, with that, I will turn it over to Colin from our development team at Vencor to go through the training session today.
Hi, my name is Colin Shea. I am the business analyst from Vencor, and I will be presenting to you on the Federal Real Property Profile Management System, FRPP-MS, Salesforce Phase 2.0 demo. On the net, we also have our developers, Vishnu and Vanilla, and what was our PM, Iqbal. Now, our agenda for today, we will be covering your profile types in FRPP-MS, how to log into the application, some basic user account maintenance, how to update your asset information in FRPP-MS using the data submission method for XML files, how to add individual assets, how to modify and delete individual asset records, and then we will be covering how to do an in-depth asset search and the summary reports you can produce, followed by your administrative functions in FRPP-MS with a focus at the end on our data anomaly reports. We'll then wrap up today's presentation with technical support information, our known challenges and changes, the secure socket layer migration, before ending today with a question and discussion period. Now, before I begin, are there any questions? Okay, so the first thing we'll be covering are our profile types in FRPPMS. There are a total of 8 user roles available to users in the application. 7 of these we will be covering the functionalities for in FRPPMS today. The last we will not. The user roles are your agency and bureau read-only users. These users have read-only access to their associated agency or bureau. You then have your agency and bureau data submission and staging users. These users have access to staging, validating, attaching XML files for their associated agency or bureau. Last, you have your agency and bureau write users. These users have your ability to write for individual asset records and add, delete, or modify those records throughout the application. And then you have your agency administrator who can do all of the aforementioned items in addition to some. The one role we will not be covering today is your FRPPMS system administrator who can do everything an agency administrator can for the entire application. The first thing we will be covering today now is the login to FRPPMS. Originally, FRPPMS had a single-factor login, but due to updated security requirements, we have had to move to a two-factor login and authentication. The first factor is your username and password, similar to the previous session of the UAT environment. The second factor is an email code authentication received at the email address associated with your account username. After you receive the email and enter the one-time code into the box that you will be shown after logging in with your username and password, you then select Next to gain full access to the FRPPMS application. Now we'll be going over the basic user account maintenance features in FRPPMS. First, we're going to cover your password rules for the application. Your current password cannot be the same as your last 3 passwords. The password has to be a minimum of 8 characters, and those 8 characters must contain 1 number, 1 uppercase letter, 1 lowercase letter, and 1 special character. Examples of special characters are shown on the slide. This password will expire after 90 days, and account lockout will occur after 6 invalid login attempts. If you would like to update your password in FRPPMS after logging into the application, you would select the drop-down next to your username in the top right. From there, select My Settings, and a pop-up will appear in front of you. From there, you select Security Settings, and you'll be brought to a menu where you can change your password. Enter your current password, as well as your desired new password twice, and then select Save. At this point, your password will be updated in FRPPMS. Alternatively, if you've forgotten your password, you can update your password from the login page by selecting the Forgot Password button below Login. At this point, you will be prompted for your FRPPMS username, then you select Continue. Now, you will receive 2 emails at the email address associated with your account. The first email will contain a unique password reset link. Select that link, and then you will receive the second email, which will contain a verification code similar to when you first try to log into FRPPMS. Enter that code in the box shown and select Next. Then you will be prompted to reset your password. After entering your new password, in accordance with the password rules, select Save, and you will be granted access to the FRPPMS application. Now I'm going to demo these features for you briefly in the application. While I pull it up, are there any questions? Okay. So to log into FRPPMS, I would first enter my username. And my password. At this point, I am brought to the verification code page. I would wait about a minute and receive an email containing a validation code for entry into the application. After copying that code, I would enter it into the box shown and then select Next. At this point, I have full access to the FRPP application per my user profile type. But if I'm not happy with my current password, I can select my username and click the arrow next to it, and then select the My Settings button. A pop-up will then appear in front of me, and from here I select Security Settings. If I want to change my password, which I'm not going to do so right now, I would enter my current password in the first box, followed by my new password in the next two. After that, I would hit Save, and my password would be updated for the application. Alternatively, I can hit Cancel, as I just did, and be brought to the previous menu without any updates. Now, if I've forgotten my password and cannot log into the FRPP MS application, I can select the Forgot Your Password button right below the Login button. Now I'm prompted for my username. After entering my username, I would wait about a minute and check my email for a unique password reset link. After selecting this link, a new window will open asking for a verification code. Returning to my email, I would grab that verification code and enter it into the box displayed. After selecting Next, I'm given the opportunity to update my password. Now that I've entered a password that is in compliance with the password rules and selected Save, I have access to the FRPP MS application. So now I'm going to return to the presentation unless there are any questions on that demo. Okay. So the next part of the presentation, which we will be covering, is how to update your asset information in FRPP MS. The first part of this section of the presentation is the data submission process. The data submission process for XML files has not changed from our previous UAT session. And you probably have seen this chart before if you attended our last training session. You would start by attaching an XML file, which is then staged and validated against the current business rules. After correcting that XML file for any errors, you would have your agency admin upload the file, thereby updating your agency's inventory for the current fiscal year. At this point, and once your agency has had all of its information updated for the current fiscal year, your agency administrator can select Confirm. This says that there will be no more updates for your agency's inventory for the current fiscal year. Throughout the process, you will have various reports and email notifications to help you along with the process, and we will cover these in greater detail as we continue. But before you begin the data submission process, we want you to be aware of the different delete options available to you, as these delete options will affect your strategy for updating your agency's inventory for the current fiscal year. The first option available to you is your inventory clearance. This will delete all asset records for your agency's inventory for the current fiscal year or for a bureau in your agency. Once this is complete, the user will be notified by email. Alternatively, individual records can be deleted from your agency's inventory, or you can delete batches of records from your agency's inventory using XML files with the action attribute delete. We will be getting into how to do these specifically in greater detail throughout the presentation. Now, if you are going to submit an XML file, the XML template has not changed from our previous UAT training session. You have your action attribute, your agency code, and your fiscal year found at the top level of the XML file. Please be aware that a file can only be either add, modify, or delete. You cannot mix and match action attributes throughout an XML file. If you need to view the XML format, it can be found in the FRPP MS Data Dictionary in Appendix A and XML schemas. The one thing that has changed for the XML files in this phase of the UAT is we've made the delete attribute available to you. Previously, you could only add or modify records using XML files in the UAT environment. Now you can delete batches of records from the UAT environment using an XML file. A copy of that XML file type is shown on the right of the chart. Once you have attached an XML file with the delete attribute, all of the records in that file will immediately be deleted from your agency's inventory after you've attached it and it's been validated against the current business rules. Now, your XML file, after you've attached it, is validated against the current business rules for 2015. These have been incorporated into the UAT environment. If you need to review these rules, they can be found in the FRPP MS Data Dictionary at gsa.gov/data dictionary. Now we're going to specifically explain how you would attach a file for the data submission process. To start with, as a data submission user for an agency or bureau, or as an agency administrator, you would select the Data Submission tab. After that, you would select the agency which you would like to attach a file for, and then select Attach File. Now this will look a little different from our previous UAT environment, as for user ease, we have decided to combine the previous Attach and Validate and Upload sections of the Data Submission tab into an Attach, Validate, and Upload section. After you've selected Attach File, you'll be brought to the Attach File page. From here, you would select Browse. You would search for the file you want to attach. After selecting it, you would select Attach File on the page. You can do this multiple times. After you've attached all of the files that you would like to, you select Done to return to the Data Submission page. This will then stage all of your files. As your files are staged, they are then processed through the system, and you will see one of the following 7 statuses after processing. A file will either shown to be invalid, in which case the attached file has errors according to the current fiscal year data dictionary. These errors will require correction. They can either be corrected in the system using error reports or outside of the system, and the file can be reattached and then validated again. If a file shows the status as valid, there are no errors according to the current fiscal year business rules. At this point, the agency administrator can select Upload, and the records will be added to the inventory for that agency for the current fiscal year. Alternatively, you may see Uploaded. This indicates that an agency administrator has already selected Upload for a valid file, and the records in those files have been updated in that agency's inventory for the current fiscal year. You may see Remove and Reload. This indicates that a file was previously tagged as invalid XML file, or valid, but the fiscal year has changed since that file was attached. In this case, the file needs to be removed and reattached for validation in the system. You may also see that the fiscal year validation has failed. In this case, the fiscal year has been updated since a file was uploaded, and the associated records in the database will have errors. If you see delete process, this indicates that a file that was attached was found to be valid and had the action attribute of delete. In this case, the delete was immediately processed and all the records were deleted from your agency's inventory for the current fiscal year. The last main status you'll see is invalid XML file. In this case, the file did not contain an XML in the correct format and it could not be read by the system. You will then need to remove the file, update the XML, and reattach it so that it can be properly validated. So after you've attached the file, you will see the bottom portion of the Data Submission tab in the Attach, Validate, and Upload section will display that file along with one of the statuses I just mentioned. If the XML file format is incorrect, you have to remove the file, update it, and reattach it so it can be validated again. Otherwise, you would select one of the error reports from the report side, you would edit the errors in the file, and then once you're done, notify your agency administrator. At this point, the agency administrator can select Upload to update that agency's inventory for the current fiscal year. Now briefly, we're going to cover the types of error reports available to you as you go through this part of the process. The first are your validation summary and upload summary reports. These display all of the data in the file and aggregate that data by land, building, and structure. This is indicated by the numbers 20, 35, and 40 in the report. The difference between your validation summary report and your upload summary report is that the upload summary report will not show the errors in the file. The validation summary report is identical to the upload summary report, but displays a count of the errors found in the file. Therefore, one will show up before a file is uploaded, and the other shows up after your agency administrator selects upload. The next type of report is your detailed error report. This displays all of the errors in the attached file at the data element level. You can then go in and select one of these assets from its FRPP asset ID to open that staged record and correct the errors in the file. Once you've done this for all of the errors in the file should show valid in the Attach, Validate, and Upload portion of the Data Submission tab. At this point, your agency administrator can select Upload to upload the file and update their inventory for the current fiscal year. The next type of report is the data correction report. This report offers some of the same functionality as in the previous report, the difference being that all the errors for the attached file are displayed at the asset level. Now at the very bottom of the Data Submission tab, you will receive your Reports and Confirm Data section. This allows you to view a summary of the information that has been updated for your agency for the current fiscal year, including not just the Data Submission XML files, but also individual records that have been updated. The difference here from our previous UAT environment is we have added 3 new confirmation reports. These are your predominant use summary report, your disposition summary report, and your summary report. Once an agency administrator has confirmed that all of the updates are made for their inventory for their agency for the current fiscal year, they can select the Confirm button from the very bottom of the page. This indicates that there will be no more updates made to their agency's inventory for the current fiscal year. If another update is made after selecting the Confirm button, the Confirm is canceled out, and the agency administrator will need to go back into the system and reselect the Confirm button. Now I'm briefly going to cover these functionalities in a demo in the application. Before I get started, are there any questions? Okay. So as an agency or bureau data submission user or an agency administrator, I would have access to the Data Submission tab. This tab is located at the top. After selecting it, I am brought to the page which allows me to attach, validate, and upload XML files. From here, I would select my agency. In this case, I am logged in as an interior super user or agency administrator, so I only have access to the interior agency. Then I would select to attach a file. I am now brought to the Attach File page. Now I would select to choose a file. I would search for the file on my computer. And then I would select Open. Once I've done that, I select Attach File. The bottom of the page will then show that the file has been attached. However, I'm not done. I want to attach another file. So I select Choose File again, and then I select the other file I would like to attach. I select Open, and select Attach File. Now I've attached both of the XML files that I would like to have in the database. So I select Done. These files are now shown below. The first shows delete processed as its final status. This indicates that the file had the action attribute delete, and the file was found valid according to the business rules for the current year. Therefore, the records in the file were automatically deleted from my agency's inventory. The other file I attached shows invalid. This indicates that the XML is correct for this file. However, there are errors in the file according to the business rules for the current fiscal year. Therefore, I would select one of my error reports. The error report would show me that this record does not have one of the attributes. Opening the record would bring me to its edit page for that staged record. And as a data submission user or an agency administrator, I would have access to the edit, the back, and the delete buttons up at the top. Selecting the edit button shows me that my square feet unit of measure is missing. This is indicated by the required red bar and the fact that this field is blank. So I would select the drop-down and select a viable entry. In this case, gross square feet according to the business rules. Now I select Save. As you can see, my square feet unit of measure has been updated to gross square feet. At this point, the file should be updated, so I should return to the Data Submission tab. Now you can see my FRPP test file has a status of valid. As an agency administrator, I have the option to upload this file. By selecting Upload, the upload is in progress, and then it is uploaded. With the final status of uploaded, this file has updated my agency's inventory for the current fiscal year. The next section of the Data Submission tab is my Reports and Confirm Data area. Here I can select an agency and then select one of my reports. In this case, I will select my Disposition Summary Report and select Generate Report to run that report. After a couple moments, the report will be processed, and it will display that report for my agency. After I've confirmed that I am happy with that information and the information in all of my confirmation reports, I would return to the Data Submission tab as an agency administrator and select Confirm. This now indicates that I have confirmed that there will be no more updates to my agency's inventory for the current fiscal year. Before I move back to the presentation, are there any questions?
Yes. Yolanda Langford in the chat, her question is, why would someone attach 2 files?
You would attach multiple files because we can only accept one action attribute per file. Therefore, if you are adding records to your agency's inventory, you would have to have one file for that. If you are modifying records for your agency's inventory, you would have one file for that. And if you are deleting files from your agency's inventory, you would have to have a file for that. Additionally, we recommend that you have no greater than a 50 megabit file per file. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Yolanda, actually, I'll just add also some agencies in the past have had a preference in organizing their records that they want all their buildings to be in one file and then a separate file for structures, a separate file for land. Some have files for different bureaus so that it's easier for them to track the action, that if it's an error, they know which bureau based off of not having multiple bureaus and then having to figure out which record does this belong to. If there's an error in the bureau file, they know to go to whoever prepared the data for that bureau to have them correct it and then resubmit the XML file to validate it. So those are some historical reasons as well beyond what Colin had provided.
Okay. So now we will continue with the presentation. The next chart is on how to add a single asset to FRPP-MS. Available to agency and bureau right users is the functionality to open the Add Asset tab and update their agency's inventory for the current fiscal year for a single asset at a time. They can select this tab and then enter all of the required data as designated by the red bar. As they move through the form, new red bars will appear in accordance with the business rules for 2015. After entering all required and any optional data, you select Save. This will add the asset to the agency's inventory for the current fiscal year. If you want to add another asset to your agency's inventory for the current fiscal year, you would then select the Add Asset tab again and start over. Now briefly, I'm going to show you this in the application. So now that I've pulled up the application, I would select the Add Asset tab. This is available to agency and bureau right users and agency administrators. As you can see, I now have the form available to me to add a new asset to my agency's inventory. I would move through this form to fill in the various fields. After filling in some fields, for instance status, new fields would show a red bar. As you can see, I selected Report of Excess Submitted, and what was previously a grayed out field now shows a red bar requesting a date. I would enter that date, and I would fill out the rest of the form as well. Once I'm done, I would select Save. After I select Save, if there are any issues with the file after I've attempted to fill out the form, I would see what errors there are, and I would be told to correct them. I would go through, I would correct these errors, hit Save again, and then that asset would be added to my agency's inventory. Now I'm going to move back to the presentation unless there are any questions on how to add an individual asset.